Hey, what's up guys? So today I'm going to just talk about a few different types of nunchucks I have, what I like about them, what I don't like about them, what I recommend them for or not recommend them for. So let's go ahead and get started. First one I have on here is just very basic foam nunchucks. I feel like everyone should have a pair of these. These ones are 12 inches in length, 1 foot, and the connection is probably about 4 to 5 inches, something like that, probably like 4.5 inches. I recommend these. Everyone should have a pair just like this to practice so that you can do all your stuff and hit yourself in the head and not worry about it. So everyone should get a pair of foam nunchucks, especially when they're beginning. That's a pretty good length. You typically would want it to be about the length of your hand. The back of your hand, whenever you're hanging it down, it should be about like this. This is a little bit long for me, but for most people it'll work. And again, it's just to kind of hit yourself with as you're learning, and later on you'll progress to not using these anymore. Let's see, the next ones that I have on here, I'm just going to talk about some common ones that you can buy. So these ones you'll kind of see everywhere. They're pretty generic pair that, yeah, most places online are going to sell these. I actually bought these in person at a store. They're fairly common. These ones have about that same length for the connection point. It's about the same. I personally don't like chains. Some people do though. I don't like chains because I don't like the sound that it constantly makes whenever I'm doing stuff. It kind of annoys me a little bit. And then I'm always afraid that the quality on these chains aren't very good and then I'm going to break them. So this is almost the same thing as these. Probably made at the same place. And to be honest, seems like they would be made at the same place. I feel like quality is a little bit better on these ones. These have the cord connection with them. But another pretty generic pair that, again, I bought these in person, so not hard to find. The problem with these is it's a little bit long in the cord, but with the cord ones is I can change the length, unlike the chain ones. I'm not able to change the length. Granted, I'm sure I would be able to somehow, but that's more hassle than I would like. All right, the next one. So these are the WNA style. These are specific for their style. They're pretty good. I've broken a pair though, striking something. So if you actually strike, like I broke it striking my bob. So if you strike something hard, they're gonna break. They're not meant for striking hard, but they are soft, so you don't really get hurt when you're doing it. The length of these, I believe, is 13.5 inches. And then their connection is like 4.5 to 5 inches, something along that line for it. They have a pretty thin connection. I'm not sure how it's connected inside of here. Again, when I hit it, it popped out. Just looks like the string came right out. So I don't recommend these if you're actually trying to strike something. The way their sparring is, though, they don't really strike as hard as they can for it. So it works for their purpose, and pretty fun little ones to work with without hurting yourself. It gives the little bit of extra length on the chucks, also helps for some techniques compared to the 12-inch ones that I showed earlier. Then there's these ones. These are Action Flex foam ones. These ones are great for sparring. I really like these for sparring because you can just bash people with them. There's only one thing I don't like about these for sparring, and that's going to be the cap. So these have a little cap on them, and man, does that hurt if you get hit in the back of the hand. So I do recommend, if you are using these, wear gloves, because just that clash really hurts because it's heavy for something that you should be sparring with. But the rest of it is really soft. You can take hard hits, and you feel the hit. It stings a little bit, but it doesn't actually hurt. So these ones are really good for sparring. One of the problems, though, that I do have with these as far as sparring goes is they're very flexible at the end. So I actually have to hold them up a little bit higher, which doesn't bug me too much because these are longer than my normal chucks. So holding it up higher makes it about the same length that what I'm used to. But I would like to utilize the length when I have it. So it's kind of hard because as I swing, it bends a whole lot, as you can see, and that's just not something that I'm a big fan of. But they are really good for sparring because you can go pretty hard without worrying about hurting your partner. All right, this is another pair that I bought. I'm going to go ahead and hold this other one up to it so you can see the difference. So you can see that chain length is significantly longer, and the chuck length is actually a little bit shorter. Personally, I don't recommend these for anything. I don't care much for these at all. I think some styles like it. Like I know Bruce Lee's chucks used to be extremely long. Like at least that's what it looks like from the movies. you could get some hits. The ricochet is a little bit harder to control when it's that long. Honestly, it's not that great for me. I can't do hand rolls on it. I have to do a lot of sliding. I don't personally recommend these. If you have some of these and you like them, let me know below why you like them. Comment below and tell me why you like them. I'd be interested. I don't like them, but somebody might. If you have a reason, I would like to know it. All right. So now we've got some other ones. These ones are octagonal shape. So I kind of like these. These are more traditional. I had these ones made. I didn't make these ones, but I had these ones made with a shorter length. So you can see that the length here is significantly shorter than the other ones. These are great for our American style forms, right? So American style specifically forms. If you're doing some other styles forms, they might not work as well, but they're really good because they have this really fast spin. Because it's shorter in the length, I can control it a whole lot easier, which is really good for our forms. They're not as good for tricks. So like hand rolls, I might drop it on a hand roll, almost did just then, because my hand, the back of my hand hits both of them and it just doesn't sit right. So it typically will clash the back of your hand and it might make you toss it and or fall doing hand rolls. So with the shorter length, again, I asked for these ones specifically for this because I wanted them for the forms specifically. They're great for that, not so good for tricks. So, you know, hit or miss, depends on what you want them for. And I do like the octagon shape. It just seems kind of cool. But the octagon shape does seem to dent a little bit more when I impact into some other things, or if they drop and impact into themselves, it can dent a little bit more, so it'll show wear more clearly. Then I've got a pair of these. These are Cocobolo. So these are honestly very expensive if you buy them. I made these ones, so these ones are handmade. I really just kind of want to point out that these are heavy. So these are super dense, and it's good to have some dense chucks. It slows you down whenever you're working your techniques because of how heavy they are. You're not going to be able to move as fast, but you get a really killer forearm workout. So they're fun for that. That's honestly what I recommend them for. These, they just kind of look nice, but as far as utility goes, I don't train with them that much, to be honest. So I don't recommend getting something super heavy because you might be motivated to use them at first, but then they're probably just gonna do what these do and sit on my sit on my rack, not really doing much. So I recommend having something that is gonna be a weight that you like, that's good for you, so you're always going back to it, instead of just something that you have sitting on the rack. I have a bunch of Chuks, so I have a bunch that sit around. These are my personal favorite ones, so I made these ones. The chain length is, I think this one's about 4 to 4.5 inches also, so the pretty generic length. It's going to be that good size that will allow me to do like hand rolls relatively easy, and hand rolls typically will lead into, you know, tricks, tosses, whatever you have for that. It's really good for that. These are also a lightweight pair, so I can still use them for my specific forms and still move really fast with these. So this is a rattan. So I made these ones specifically. These are probably my favorite pair, is the rattan Chucks. You have all these different weights that you can work with. Now, one of the things I kind of want to talk about with this is I highly recommend that if you are capable of it, making your own nunchucks. They are so much better when they're personalized. You feel better about making them. You can add your own designs into them. You can learn how to make the strings the certain length that you want. These ones are actually cool because I make these so that they can come apart. So you can take these apart easily, right? I can change them out with other ones of the same type of material until I get a length that I want for the strings. They're so much more customizable if you do them, if you make them yourself. So I highly recommend that if you are capable of it, make some yourself. You do have to have some machinery, specifically the ability to drill through that is really the main thing that you would need machinery for. But I do recommend making your own. It's going to be a lot more personalized. The other thing that I didn't really talk about too much is going to be the diameter of them. So I prefer, for me personally, I use a 1-inch diameter. Some people like the 1 1/4, some people in between that. So that's, again, going to be based on you. I'm not a very tall person, I'm not a very big person, so I don't have super big hands. I don't need super big chucks. I need something that I can whip around really quick and easily, and that can be different for you. So you see all the different pairs, and I have a bunch of chucks that you haven't seen, but for the most part, that's the big differences between most of them is going to be the length, the width, and then the length of the cordage, and then whatever it's made out of, the density, and if it's going to be a chain or a rope. And I'm not going to tell you anything better for you specifically for the style that I do. I recommend a pair with a short connection, and then I recommend a pair with a connection that when you put it on the back of your hand, it kind of just hangs down. It shouldn't hang down too much, so you see there's no, from here, you can't see it going down any further, like if I was using these ones, you can see that the chain is clearly hanging below my hand. When I try to do a hand roll with these, I can do it, but I have to do a slide, and it doesn't feel comfortable. So I recommend something about that length, and then something with about a 2.5 to 3 inch length, and that just will help you get really fast for the forms. So work with that. That's what I recommend. Again, it's going to be different for everybody. So practice with different ones, find out which one you like the best, and get to training.